Hi, Frank. Can you see me okay? Here, I think. Great. Good evening, everyone. For those of our local Sangha members who are joining and some from far away, welcome. You're joining us in the middle of the Being with Dying program, where this wonderful group of clinicians and caregivers has been in silence for the last few days, receiving these incredible teachings from Roshi Joan and Cinda and Tony and Mary and Corinna and Holly. I'm looking at you. I'm like thinking of all the other names. So thank you all so much. And Wendy, Diane, and Lau. It's been an incredible week. And tonight, starting with dinner, we'll be starting to speak again. So just be convivial and be mindful. Frank Ostaseski, how many of you don't know who Frank is? I'm just wondering. He's, okay. Thanks, Frank. Frank is a heart of hearts and someone who continues to come and teach for us here at Upaya and around the world. He's really a world-renowned teacher, and I don't know if you could call it an expert on death and dying, but he has sat with over 1,000 people through their dying process, co-founded the Zen Hospice Project, and founded the Metta Institute. And in addition to being a Dharma holder of Roshi Joan, so he's connected with our lineage as well. He comes to teach her many times throughout the year, online and in person. And I just so grateful, Frank, for your work, and particularly your book, which is on this subject as well, The 5 Invitations, Discovering What Death Can Teach Us About Living Fully, which is definitely a required reading for this lifetime. So, Frank, thank you so much for being with us tonight and for sharing on becoming intimate. And we'll do our best to integrate people having a dialogue with Frank in the second part of the talk. So when that happens, we'll have a couple people with mics. Please take the mic so that everyone in the room can hear, as well as Frank. And we'll start with the verse before the Dharma talk.
And I'm very happy to have the opportunity to be with old friends, especially glad to be with the residents at Upaya, for whom I have a great fondness and respect. And to be in the good company of my longtime friend and close pal, Roshi. And to have the opportunity to address the participants in the Being with Dying program. Wow, you are lucky people. You have this extraordinary opportunity to be mentored by the best of the best in this very well-crafted, I would say evidence-based contemplative training that will support you in accompanying people at the end of life, probably in ways that you can't imagine now. And I'm confident that Roshi and Cinda and Tony and Dinan and Noah and all the other faculty will fill you to the brim with valuable resources. So I'm not sure I have any useful material to add to the wealth of information you're being given, but I'm happy to explore with you. Yeah. I'm curious about how we relate to being with dying, how it evokes intimacy and challenges identity. Now, it's likely, I would guess, that the intellectual, procedural, task-oriented approaches that you've been exposed to through your medical training are insufficient, actually, for being with dying. Because being with dying is too profound to be addressed by medicine alone. To me, always, being with dying is more about relationships. Our relationship with ourselves, with those we love, with whatever image of ultimate kindness we hold and to be true in this life, with the person sitting in front of you. Relationships that are characterized more by mystery than mastery. Does that sound true to you so far? Being with dying means getting up close and personal. You know, we can't emerge unscathed from the journey into the heart of another person's suffering. The silent witnessing that we engage in, the way we rub shoulders with death, the wordless conversations, well, they can, at least for me, evoke an unending curiosity about the human spirit. I love romance. Maybe you do too. I know that Catherine, one of the residents at the Zen hospice that I worked with, she loved romance too. And one night we were watching Pretty Women on TV, the Pretty Woman movie. And some of the best stuff happens when you're watching TV with patients, you know? So anyway, we're watching this film, and in the middle of it, she makes the announcement that she wants to get married. She has only about 6 weeks to live, you know, but she wants to get married to her sweetheart. And she asked me in the middle of the movie, would I perform the ceremony? And I said, sure, I'd be honored. And I said, but what you really need is a wedding coordinator. And lucky for you, I'm available. So, you know, there's a lot of details that are involved in planning a wedding. So every day I would come into a room and we would talk about the wedding. And I would ask her questions about all kinds of aspects of getting married, you know. This guy was she marrying, was I going to like him? Tell me why you love him. Do you have any concerns about your compatibility? You trust he's going to stick with you? Up close and personal. I asked were they going to write their own vows or what kind of cake she wanted. Did she want to sit in a wheelchair or lie in bed? She couldn't walk anymore. I said, and what about the dress? What do you want to wear? And what about the shoes? The shoes are really important. And all the while, I was aware that we were, of course, having a conversation that involved much more than bridal details. We were inviting in some very powerful archetypes. And one day, you know, in the middle of deciding about what to do about the cake, she just broke into tears and she blurted out, I just want my mom to be there. But her mom had died, I don't know, I think 6 years before. And But that's what mattered most to Catherine. You see, in that moment, that's what mattered most to her. Not her cancer, not the fact that she was dying. It was that her mom wouldn't be there to witness her wedding. That was the face of her suffering. And I might have missed it, if I responded with a cliche, oh yeah, wouldn't that be nice, But instead, we went right to the heart of the matter, right to the heart of the issue. And we explored, how might we bring her mother's presence into the wedding? And she thought about it for a while. And she said, we could put pictures over there. And she pointed to the mantle over the fireplace in her room. And I said, well, what would you have wanted your mom, what would you have wanted from her on your wedding day? Yeah. And she thought about it for a while, and she could have answered with anything, but she said, oh, I would have loved it if she would read aloud the poem that she wrote me right before she died. She said, would you read it? Would you read it? And I said, with all my heart. When we're up close and personal, when we're listening devoutly, our non-judgmental attention responds to exactly what hurts in the other. And the heart opens. It feels cared for and seen. You see, compassion it's cognizant of the whole spectrum of considerations, the breadth of the suffering. But it attunes to what matters most in that moment. And sometimes that attunement is so intimate that we may feel ourselves engaged in what our old friend Ram Dass used to call a soul-to-soul meeting. Stephen and Rick, they were both living with AIDS, just a few rooms apart in the hospice. And Rick, in addition to his AIDS diagnosis, had suffered a stroke, and he was paralyzed on his whole right side, and that left him with aphasia and very garbled speech. And he was really angry about his limitations. And he was very prickly with everybody, including me. And all of this sort of combined to even feeling very isolated. In all our efforts, to find a way through these defensive shields that he had, well, they were met with rebuffs. We couldn't find a way through. Stephen, on the other hand, he was open and radiant. And when you walked into his room, you felt like you were stepping into a sanctuary. Stephen had done his homework, he'd done the inner journey of facing his demons. And now there was a great sense of peacefulness and gratitude that was present in him. So this one day I explained to Rick that Stephen was coming closer to the end of his life, and Rick decided he wanted to say goodbye. So I, helped him limp down the hallway to Stephen's room. And he went in and he sat down on the edge of the bed. And I sat down in the corner. That's my way. I don't want to interfere. And then for the next 20 minutes, I watched the most incredible unfolding. These two men, they entered into this profound and silent exchange. No words were spoken at all. But their eyes never left each other's faces. I sat in wonder. And at the end, Rick just nodded like that, and Stephen said, "Yeah, thanks. That was great." And they hugged, and Rick went back to his room. And Stephen died that night. See, Rick had shown up with his fear and his darkness, and he knew that he was looking at his own destiny when he was looking at Stephen. He knew he would die also in a few weeks, and that scared him. But Stephen, because he was open to his own suffering, he could be with Rick's fear without giving more fear. And so he looked at Rick with this unbelievable love and compassion. It was intimate, soul connection. That at least for that moment was a kind of healing salve for Rick. Up close and personal. Obviously being with dying, this term I really want to explore, it means that we become aware that we're of the nature to die, that we can't escape death or death of those we love. But also being with dying makes it explicit that no human being can be reduced to what we see or think we see. That every human being is infinitely larger than our narrow judgments of them. And there's no final words to be uttered. In the act of dying, we are in this constant state of change, inhabiting a process that's saturated with the possibility of continuous development. And if you talk to those of us who have kept company with people who are dying over the years, we recognize our human capacity for self-fulfillment and for transformation, even in the midst of the most difficult situation, the biggest trials and crises. And for me, that borders on the miraculous, actually. A deepened awareness of our impermanence. It provides us with the urgency to let go of the confusion of living on the surface. And, if just for a little while we could stay close and do nothing, that would be my deepest wish for you, that you could stay close and do nothing. And we might come to appreciate that there are conditions in dying that are conducive to the process of uncovering the contractions of desires and fears that have blocked us from a more intimate connection with a more expanded consciousness, a more expanded awareness. But there are conditions that are supportive to our awakening, to becoming intimate with the nature of our nature. Dying helps that. I think our work of being with dying is a matter of heart, and above all, about our common humanity. And in it, there's no place to hide. We can't retreat to a role or be protected by our beliefs or a white coat or a Buddhist robe. I've been with a lot of people who were sick and dying. Noah mentioned that. And sometimes, once in a while, I was a useful companion. But I was thinking about talking to you today, and I thought, if I'm really honest with them, I'll let them know that sometimes I talk too much, trying to share my wisdom and what I learned from my teachers. And in those times, the people who were sick, well, they asked me if I could stop talking. And these were usually moments when I was projecting my fear of pain and illness onto them. But that I convinced myself that I was there to heal their pain. What a misperception. But it was a blow to my ego, when people told me to be quiet. But usually those were the moments that I learned the most. And with time, and some more experience, I stopped projecting so much and learned to be more aware and intimate with what was happening for me. That meant that sometimes when I was leaning into anything that seemed to be leading me toward burnout, I learned to be able to stop and turn toward that thought or that experience and with some mindful attention, and over time see it clearly. And what that did was make it more able for me to be present and more curious and more playful, actually. For me, being with dying is about becoming intimate. The organizing teaching in this training and for Upaya really, our lineage comes from Master Dogen, founder of the Soto Zen school, who we're told declared, I wasn't there, but I'm told he declared, to be enlightened is to be intimate with all things. But that word intimacy, it's a challenging word for many of us. Usually we think about it in terms of relationships, right? Well, we might have grown up with a limiting idea about intimacy, that it's only about the eros of romantic love or the erotic pleasure of bodies coming together. And for others, it's about the intimate sharing of some very personal experience, the history we've had with one another. And for many of us, this intimate relationship with ourselves, with others, with the world, well, it's our deepest yearning and also our biggest fear. Now, I'm pretty sure when Dogen was teaching about intimacy, he wasn't only talking about the kind of physical or emotional intimacy that we share with a lover or a partner. Nor, I don't think, was he just talking about the intimacy between a parent and child or the secrets we keep for one another. Although the intimacy that Dogen was speaking of, well, it's not separate from those either. I imagine that he used the word intimate to express what is inseparable. And the wisdom of intimacy, well, it begins to emerge when subject and object fall away. Maybe you've experienced something like that in these last days, in the silence. Maybe when the mind gets a little still and concentrated. And the arising of a thought or a feeling or a sensation and the knowing of it is one thing. Consciousness is intimate. Intimacy doesn't mean intimate with something else. It's a different order of knowing. And it often comes to us through love, a condition of vivid comprehension in which we appreciate that reality is whole and suffused with benevolence. So when we sit together, when we sit bedside, when we practice together, as we're trying to do tonight, we're exploring how to be intimate. Meditation is intimacy with oneself. And as Roshi and my friend Jack says, the struggle within meditation is not to block out thoughts or detach or make yourself calm. The challenge is to tolerate the intensity of intimacy. Real understanding, it implies the possibility of knowing through intimacy instead of only through mental or conceptual operations. We can know the body and be intimate with it. We can know our feelings and be intimate with them. We can know our inner state by being intimate with it. Intimacy means no barriers exist between you and whatever's being known. The appearance of phenomenon is totally inseparable from the act of perceiving that phenomenon. So being with dying, it requires this kind of receptive quality. And I think it's supported by love of truth. Truth can sometimes lead us to the elimination of suffering, can't it? But it can also lead us to pain. And whichever results, if we come from the perspective of love and appreciation of the truth, whether it brings us joy or pain, a feeling of deep intimacy will result. And if love's not the motivation for our practice, we're doing it for the wrong reasons. And if love's not the motivation for being with dying, we're doing it for the wrong reasons. It's an exquisite personal intimacy to discover that you are you, with nothing excluded, nothing rejected. And that you're both this person and somehow a universal existence. And that intimacy can be shared with another. It's not just a result of shared history, but of a shared presence in a given moment. Yeah. I think I want to pause here and because I want to leave time to visit with you and see how this is landing. You might have a question or a comment, but I'm more interested in, what gets in the way of your intimacy. What's the experience of intimacy with everything feel like? So let's play with that a little bit. What gets in the way of your intimacy? What's intimacy feel like when you're being with dying? Okay, I'll shut up now, and maybe some of you have a comment or a question, something you want to share, and somebody will get you a mic and see what we can discover together. So what's on your hearts and minds? Don't be shy. This is intimate work. We can't do it from a distance. There we go. Someone will be brave.
Or stupid. Thank thank you for your stories. And to the question, what gets in the way of intimacy? I think plans for me,
Huh?
be like this isn't the plan. Like I have my plan for the day.
Oh. And so how does it get in the way? Tell me more about how plan gets in the way.
Well, there'll be a sort of pull, maybe there's a connection that might happen, but then there's this sense of what I thought I should do
Yeah.
that day, things that feel important to take care of.
Yeah.
And a feeling like a bit of a bind, because if I don't take care of those other things, some of the things can feel like I'm not, like then I'll be creating a little suffering for myself.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So may I ask you a question?
Yeah, please.
So if you would just, without judgment, or just to answer this question, what's right about being separate? What would you say? Right, I don't mean right or wrong. I just mean, why would you be invested in being separate?
Just feels more reliable.
But it feels like something else too, huh? Yeah, it feels more reliable. I can count on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask it to you again. What's right about being separate? Don't think about it too much. You did really well there by just going directly to the heart of it.
Well, in a way, to be able to be there for someone.
Yeah. Even if it means leaving yourself,
If it means what? Sorry?
leaving yourself. So if it gets it, feel that pull between I got a plan
Mm-hmm.
that feels this kind of urgent, and then I got something over here that's really important to maintain intimacy. And I'm being pulled by what's urgent. Yeah. If you're shaking your head, yes. So you know that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just without thinking, tell me a way you experience intimacy. What's it like for you?
It's just kind of like a dropping away of everything else.
Uh-huh. And what's possible there?
Yeah, it's like you don't even know.
We don't even know yet. We don't even know yet. And we can only find out by allowing what you're calling dropping away, right? By entering fully, completely, intimately into what you know is important. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you for helping us understand that. Okay, look around, see if there's somebody else there who wants to speak, talk, explore. Who else has got their hand up? This is intimate work. You can't stay hidden behind a role. There we go.
Hi, Frank.
Hi. Tell me your name.
I'm Connor.
Connor. Hi, Connor.
I think one thing that gets in the way of intimacy for me is not recognizing when I'm in the moment.
Uh-huh. So what does that mean? You think you're in a different moment?
Yeah, yeah. It's my my mind is on the to-do list or the check boxes, and it takes me a moment to reach the awareness that I'm in a moment here with somebody and I need to be fully present.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. Well, that's part of our training, of course, as clinicians, right? They were task oriented, We forget that this being with dying is task and relationship oriented, right? Those two, that's being with dying, being task and relationship oriented. Yeah. I mean, some of us are really good at tasks, huh? I bet you are. We can remember everything. We can do everything. Yeah. And some of us in this room, if I would ask, are really good at relationships. They're great at relationships. They can listen to people for hours, but they keep screwing up on their tasks, and not giving their task attention. Yeah. So both and, right? Finding some balance between task and relationship. Yeah. But recognizing both is important so that we're not swept away just by the urgency. Yeah. Connor, what's it like for you to feel intimate when you do feel it?
Mm.
Whenever you felt it?
It's to me it's sometimes this with somebody I know, or even if I don't know them or I'm meeting them for the first time, it's like immediate trust that you feel in your heart.
Some kind of trust, huh? Yeah. Yeah.
Like you can be vulnerable and it's gonna be okay. They're gonna see you.
Right. That's what I was talking about with Catherine, wasn't it? Up close and personal. That when the heart, is recognized, right, it opens, right? When we're attending to what matters most in this moment, it opens. But if we're looking at our watch, when someone's in that moment, they're going to stop. Yeah. Beautiful, Connor. Thank you. Maybe we have someone else who wants to speak. Please keep teaching us.
For me, one of my big fears is
Wait. Tell me your name first.
I'm Paula.
Paula. Yeah. I have a friend, her 5-year-old daughter died, and she would go to the doctor, and the first thing the doctor would start doing was talking to her. And then the little girl who was 5 would say, "What's your name?" And the doctor would say, "Well, I'm Dr. So-and-so." She said, No, your real name. And so finally, they would say, "Oh, I'm Janet, I'm Frank," whatever it is. Yeah. So thank you for sharing your name, your real name. Okay, I interrupted you. What's on your heart? Yeah.
So I think my biggest fear going into my biggest fear, I think, is rejection. That we go in really wanting to help in some way, wanting to connect, and fear that they're going to wonder, why is this person asking all these questions about my personal life and my kids and what a good day looks like at home, and if I get rejected, then I feel like, okay, that's on me. I didn't explain my role well, so I think that gets in the way a fair amount.
Yeah. I was in the hospital once after a heart attack. I've had a lot of these things, and anyway, everybody who came in my room had some agenda. Everybody, sometimes they had more of a relationship with the monitors in the room than they had with me. And anyway, I just went into the bathroom, which was the only place of privacy I could find, my little bathroom. And I just let myself feel how much I hurt. And I just began to weep. And I cried and I cried, and I was so grateful for the tears. And of course, a social worker came and knocked on the door and said, "Are you okay in there? You know, should I get the nurse?" No, I said, "No, I'm fine." "You're crying. You want me to call a chaplain?" I said, I've been waiting for these tears. Because I knew if they could come, you know, that compassion would follow. If I could touch my suffering, really touch my suffering, compassion would inevitably follow. So walk in, stay close, do nothing. I mean, that's brave. Stay close and do nothing. Yeah, sure. We walk in the room with all kinds of expectations. When I was sick, I had friends, you know, people found out I was in the hospital and I was going to die. And so, you know, you can imagine, right? I was getting all kinds of support that I never asked for. And, you know, even friends who had trained chaplains or been through the Being with Dying program came to see me, you know, and they would say, "Oh, Frank, this is your time to receive. Just learn to receive. You've been given you know, or, you know, eat more shard. It's really good for you. Shard fixes everything." And, oh God, I just so much wanted to be alone or to be with someone who understood, or else leave me alone. Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. We have just one more minute, maybe. It's time for a quick question or comment. Yeah.
My name is Craig.
Greg, okay. Let's see
What
where
gets in the way of intimacy for me is when my whats are engaged with before my who. What I am
Uh-huh.
takes precedent in the interaction before who I am.
Yeah.
Opportunity.
You mean like the role when you say what I am?
I mean all of it. I mean race, gender, identity, title, whether it be as a student in school, as a nurse in the hospital, as a person walking around with a black body.
Uh-huh.
All of these, they speak so loudly, oftentimes in interactions. And the only thing that, ironically, the only thing that was ever louder than what I looked like was when I was in a military uniform. And then that led all of my interactions. That was the new what.
Yeah.
Only what that was ever louder than my skin.
Yeah.
And my who's, it takes so much time before my who gets to be engaged with.
Yeah. Wow. So, may I ask you a question?
Of course.
So who do you bring in the room with you? I mean, who from your ancestry, from your life, from your imagination, do you bring in the room with you? So that they can be there too, while someone else is going through their imaginations about what you are, etc. Yeah. Who do you bring in with you?
I don't know. I've never thought about that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe first you need someone who you can be intimate with, who you can trust, who you can bring with you, who can sit beside you while that process of, you know, the other person's imaginations is going on. Who could keep you company in that? Can you imagine anything right now? Or anyone?
Um, yeah, my daughter.
Oh, tell me her name.
Nova.
Nova. Uh-huh. You really love Nova, huh?
Yeah.
Oh boy, is it? Is it? Wow, is it all over your face? Oh boy.
It's the longest I've ever been away from her.
Uh-huh. Ah. Oh, you picked a good one to bring in the room with you. I mean, imagine if you could bring Nova in the room and have this kind of openness that you just showed me. You know, I wonder how that might be responded to, or what barriers that might get set down, or at the very least, what kind of support you would have. Nova, huh? Oh, I'd like to meet her. How old is she?
She'll be 2 June 15th.
Ah, and this is the first time you've been away this long, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, can I ask you a different question?
I'm here for it.
Okay. How is it to be intimate with Nova? And what might that show you about being with dying?
It's easy with Nova.
Huh? Okay. Okay, there's some probably obvious reasons why it's easy, but nothing about being with Nova scares you ever?
Oh. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, but the
Aha.
thing to commit to.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. It's the hardest thing I've ever done to be intimate with my daughter. I have a daughter too, by the way, so I understand. Yeah. But wow, I don't want to give up trying.
She softens me.
Yeah.
Her in the room
Yeah.
can soften me.
Yeah. 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 You might be a little less defended, huh?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And please thank Nova when you see her. All right. Our time is up. And oh, I love being with you all. And I'm so grateful that you get to be in this program. There is no better program. I know I created some. There is no better program than this. And you're in good hands. Not just Roshi's hands and Cinda's hands and Tony's hands, but your own hands. You're in good hands. You know, sometimes in the course of this, you could try it right now. When I had a stroke, and my best friend Martha, who started the hospice with me, she came over and she said, "I think we should meditate, Frank." And I said, "Okay." And so she taught me a meditation that she used to teach men in prisons to do. And she put her right hand on her heart and her left hand on her belly. Go ahead, try it. Everybody do it. Right hand on your heart, left hand on your belly. And Martha would, lead these tough guys in this meditation. And she'd simply say two phrases. I am here now. You can whisper that to yourself, or you can say it out loud, whatever you want. I am here now. We're here now. That was the two things she gave me. I'm here now. We're here now. Okay, try it. Let's just say it out loud. the hell, Nobody, let's try it, it's embarrassing, but let's just try it anyway. Okay? Together. I'm here now. We're here now. Yeah. I'm here now. We're here now. Yeah. This evokes a feeling of belonging. That no matter how outcast we may feel, even when we feel we don't belong, we belong. And this reminds us of that. Yeah. I do it with people that are dying all the time. So that when they're feeling really isolated, this brings them home. Okay. Thank you. Sorry for going over time, but I really want to give you all my love and respect for what you're doing. Hi, Roshila, I see you there.
Thank you so much. Truly, thank you. Just such deep joy feeling your presence and your great heart.
Yeah.
See you around.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much. Enjoy your convivialness.